Hello, welcome to the shed. It is I, Drew the Shed. It's a rather windy fall afternoon. Kind of funny how I always start with weather, isn't it? Something we can all relate to. But, a little bit of housekeeping. A couple weeks ago I said I was smoking a legendary tobacco, that being, McClelland's Balkan Blue. And today I am smoking what probably can be considered a legendary pipe series, that being the Morgan Bone series. This one happening to be a bent egg. I do not know of very many people that don't own a Bones yet, and I would assume that he sells hundreds of these pipes a week. He being Chris Morgan. Now, what am I smoking today? Well, today I am smoking very excellent tobacco, one of my favorites, Briar Back Down South, a rather excellent vapor. Now, seeing that it is fall and winter, we often think of soup, the physical form of the food. But I was thinking of one of my favorite movies earlier today. That being a Sean Connery movie, Finding Forrester. Now in this movie, the plot is around a young student named Jamal Wallace and a recluse actor played by Sean Connery named William Forrester. Now, Jamal Wallace rather haphazardly stumbles onto the recluse author of William Forrester. And it just so happens that Jamal is a rather excellent writer. And Mr. Forrester notices this, and they develop a friendship together. But at one scene in the story, they're in Mr. Forrester's apartment, and they're making tomato soup. And Mr. Forrester tells Jamal, well, you better stir that soup or it's going to foam over. It's going to boil over. And Jamal asks, well, why does your soup foam over but mine never does when I make it? And Mr. Forrester proceeds to tell him that it's because his soup has milk in it. And now we have to keep in mind that Jamal, his family is rather poor, single mother, inner city. Tells Jamal that Jamal grew up in a house that would never dare think of wasting milk on something like soup. Excuse my rather tight bowl packing, seems to be something I've been doing as of late. So the scene continues, and Jamal asks Mr. Forrester a more personal question. And Mr. Forrester refuses to answer and says that you should have stuck to the question of the soup. That was a good question. And there's kind of this underlying theme from then on out between Jamal and Mr. Forrester of asking soup questions. Questions that only pertain to that situation there and the relation between Jamal and Mr. Forrester. Now here's the issue with soup questions. it does not let us examine any further into a person or question upon their current situation, their emotion, their mental state, because that does not directly relate between the two. And I think all too often, we tend to be like this. We tend to only want questions on the surface value, only soup questions that pertain to the directness of you and I. We don't tend to seek a deeper relationship between two parties. And I think in at least American culture there is a very question that is exemplifies this very well. And that question is, how are you? And when we say that, we merely only want to know the answer of, oh, I'm doing good, or I'm okay. We don't really want to know how the person is doing. Nor, anymore, we've been trained, is that's the only answers we want to give. Because emotions are messy. Mental state is messy. Actually saying how we are, not to sound like a broken record, but it's messy. And we don't want to get into the mess. We don't want to take the time to get to know another person, nor do we want to let other people in, it seems. And I think it's rather sad anymore that all we can do is ask each other soup questions. And I know here on the YTPC we are a microcosm and we're slightly different than the rest of the world. And we do tend to be more thoughtful and ask each other really how we're doing and care about the other. But is that only to our own community? Our little space here on YouTube? Do we carry that over into the outside world? So, let's think of better questions than the soup question. So, what can be a little messy and more fulfilling than some soup? Well, how about some bread and butter? You know, something we've used to relate to the heart of a matter a lot. Let's get down to the bread and butter, or it is my bread and butter. So let's ask bread and butter questions. And instead of just merely saying, oh, how are you? Or how's it going? Ask, honestly, tell me. How are you? It has a great difference, doesn't it? So, till I see you again, remember your bread and butter, and be kind and good to each other.